to, let me see, version 2. Yep, thank you, Lisa. I would have gone through version 1. Anyway, did you get your version 2 of the agenda? Kids over there. Knows. That's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's Board of Directors meeting to order. You please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial, and to whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. General Counsel Ben Rowe, you call the roll, please.
Yes, President Strozer,
Here.
Director Bombright,
Here.
Director Keating.
Here.
We have a quorum. Also noting that we have Amelia Constantine here and Anna Palaki, our student reps as well. Good evening.
And
You
Director
got
Leon.
Director Leon here.
Director Leon? Here. Awesome.
All right, we'll move forward to agenda item number 5, adoption of the agenda.
I move the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments about it? All those in favor? say
Aye.
None opposed? Passes. Agenda item number 6, recognition of staff, students, and community. Item 6.1, state holidays and civic observances.
Yes, we have 4 civic observances in the month of February and 1 state holiday. The first civic observance is Black History Month. Washington State celebrates Black History Month in the month of February to honor the achievements and contributions of Black Americans throughout our state and our nation's history. During Black History Month, schools are encouraged to offer lessons which promote understanding of Black history and educate about the accomplishments of Black Americans in our communities. February is also the month that schools across Washington teach lessons about civil rights in order to help students understand the importance of equity, equality, and justice. 6.1c is Civil Liberties Day of Remembrance. So February 19th is Civil Liberties Day of Remembrance. On this day, Washington's legislature declares an annual day of recognition be observed statewide in remembrance of Japanese Americans forcibly interned during World War II. The Day of Remembrance serves as an opportunity to reflect on the importance of individual rights and freedoms and the work it takes to make sure those rights are not denied to our citizens. 6.1d is Kip Toguda Memorial Washington Civil Liberties Public Education Program. It's a mouthful. This is a public education program named after Kip Toguda, who passed in 2013. Kip Toguda was a member of the Washington State House of Representatives, and he's one of the founders of the Japanese Cultural and Community Center of Washington. In 2016, the state established this education program to educate the public regarding the history and lessons of the World War II exclusion, removal, and detention of persons of Japanese ancestry. Our last observance that we have here is a state holiday, so this is President's Day. It's the 3rd Monday of every February. This year, President's Day falls on February 17th. President's Day is celebrated as the anniversary of the births of Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Because President's Day is a state holiday in Washington, schools and district offices will all be closed on Monday, February 17th. And those are our February observances.
Appreciate that. Anybody have any comments regarding any of those civic observances or holidays?
Other than I'm really grateful that we continue to commit to our dedication and to celebrating Black and Brown folks in our districts and history, and that it is a value that we all share.
Second. Any others? Cool. 6.2, whole educator recognition. recognition of teachers. Dr. Grigg on the move.
Thank you so much. This month of February, we get to honor our teachers. You're thinking, hey, seems a little bit early, right? And I'd like to preface it with February, March, leading up to March, is a very busy time in schools. Kids are getting ready for the holiday, getting ready for the break that's coming up in the spring. They also are, people are restless because it's long, cold months. And what better way to honor the folks that are kind of holding it together, for our kids, and they're there for them every day, and really are the glue in our buildings. And so the month of February, we get to honor our teachers. And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Don Kreider, who's the principal of Stewart. Prior to Stewart, he's a long-standing teacher in Tacoma Public Schools and has a long history with Tacoma Public Schools, and provide a little more specific honors for our amazing teachers that support Tacoma Public Schools.
This is an honor for me to have the opportunity to maybe plant a flag and recognize how well this district supports teachers. I've always felt that way for 20 years, being a baby teacher at Mount Tahoma. I've always felt supported, I've always felt resourced, and I've always felt appreciated. Even if it was back to the 2010s with Casey Madison and Dan Vopel, with some incredible showcases of what fellow teachers like me at the time were doing, I always felt like, as a teacher, that I had every resource and every opportunity to be successful for kids. And so when Dr. Grigg asked me to come up here and talk about teachers, I reflected on three things. And the three things that really resonated with me, and this is not all inclusive, this is the world according to Don, having experienced Tacoma classrooms for 20 years now. The three things I would sum it up to be is that Tacoma teachers have relationships, and they do great work summarizing those relationships and leveraging those relationships to build trust with kids and build bridges into the curriculum. And the second thing I would say about Tacoma teachers is that they provide opportunities to maintain standards and to scaffold curriculum and to take the student's mental map and take our curricular map and find ways to move that curricular map so that students find their own path to success. And the last thing that I would do to summarize the excellence in Tacoma teachers is their ability to find relevance and help kids understand what they're learning within the classroom space applies to everyday life. And for me as a teacher, it was three words. The three words was, does that mean? Does that mean meant to me as a teacher that we had made that connection and that they could ride that bike further on their own without me? And that's the magic of what Tacoma teachers do every day. And having been in those classrooms, that torch has been passed from those of us that did in the 2005s to those that are us that are doing in the 2025s. And so for every teacher out there, I think it's a great testament that this district cares enough to plant that flag and recognize how much we care about the work that they do and how much we see the value.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you so much, Don. This is part of the program we would typically have folks stand up and honor them and that kind of thing. And it's a little light out there. But if you're listening, you're tuning in, know that we value you, recognize you, and we'll continue to do that through the remainder of the year. Thank you again to our teachers. This month's recognition for all educator.
So I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of our teachers as well. It's a really tough job, and it's not lost on me. They give their hearts and souls. They play more than a role of teacher. They are mentors, they're moms, they're dads, they're aunties, they're uncles. They wipe tears, they wipe blood. They provide a flashlight, they're a beacon. They mean the world to us. They mean the world to their kids. They mean the world to our community. And so on behalf of all of the staff here at CAB, thank you to all of our teachers. I hope they get some rest this weekend, enjoy a little bit of the snow, and we're extremely grateful to them. Thank you.
I'll second that as well. Any comments related to our teachers? All right, we'll jump to agenda item number 7, superintendent's report.
Going to continue our education information series. Ms. Medina.
Good evening. I've asked Kristen to present for you as part of our education series number 4, information about how our special education allocations work and the complexities around that. So without further ado, I'll bring up our budget director, Kristen.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Tonight we're going to talk about the special education funding formula at a really, try to keep it a high level. It is fairly complex when you get into the nitty gritty, but we're just going to go over the main topics here. So the very first slide, here, I've got it right here, sorry. You guys have all seen this slide before. This is just articulating our different funds as a district. The special education money that we were talking about is that top left general fund money. That's the bucket in which we're talking about. A level deeper within the general fund, you've also seen this slide. This is a representation of the different revenue sources for our district. As you can see, in the current year's budget, 72.7% of our budget, it comes from state revenues, and that again is where we're gonna dive a little deeper. You've seen this slide also. Just want to point out the coloring is somewhat faint, but I know that you heard about child nutrition last time and the basic education discussion in December. But if you'll see the little red outlines there, those are really those categorical dollars that come in from the state that are they have strings attached. And so we have to spend them in a very specific way. Sorry. All right, so Washington school districts are legally required to serve all students with disabilities, regardless of the cost. Despite recent funding enhancements, districts continue to face a significant gap between their expenditures for special education services and the state funding. And what I have here is just kind of a little graphic that says here are all the resources that the special education programming receives. So you'll see there's on the left, there's state general purpose, state special purpose. There's a federal special purpose that comes from the feds, and that is a specific grant. And then there's other districts we receive revenues from. And as we've discussed before, that other district revenue is so if another district doesn't have the programming that we do, they'll send their students to us and we serve the student, and then that district pays Tacoma. Okay. So we're gonna talk on the next slide, which is a little bit meaty, but that state general purpose and the state special purpose are the two pieces that we're going to talk about now. So there's kind of a lot going on here, but what I want to bring your eye to is on the far left where you see basic education 3121. That is that state general purpose funding source. And that is basically for kindergarten through age 22. And it is calculated based on special education student FTE, and there's times a rate, and it's got a recovery. So there's like 4 layers of calculation that spits out. The main message I want to tell you though is that's the basic ed, gen ed component of the special education funding. So all students, special ed students are basic ed first always. That is the piece of that from a funding source. Then you move to the right-hand side there where it says state special purpose, that 4121. That is the enhancement dollars that special education gets for students. And that itself is also, you'll see, divided into 2 categories. So there's an ages 3 to 5, and then ages 5 through 22. And they're treated a little bit differently based on those categories. So on the left, ages 3 through 5, again, not enrolled in kindergarten. They take an annual average head count times a BEA rate, and then there's this 1.2 factor. And so that's the supplemental money. On the ages 5 through 22, there's 2 tiers. And I'll guide your eye to the right-hand side of the slide there. Tier 1 represents students eligible for and receiving special education who spend 80% or more of their school day in general education settings. So that's that category. And then Tier 2, students eligible for and receiving special education who spend less than 80% of their school day in general education settings. So the kind of 2 categories. So based on Tier 1 students, so there's a count, and there's a calculation that is derived from this formula here, and you'll notice that's a 1.12 factor for the Tier 1 students, and then the Tier 2 students, it's a 1.06 factor. So then you add those together, and then that's your state-funded revenue for special education students. Then at the bottom, there's a safety net, and safety net is a over and above allocation that we would apply for if a student's cost exceeds the allocation, and in this case, the threshold is $41,763. So if the cost of serving a particular student exceeds that, then we are eligible to submit a safety net application and possibly receive additional funding. And that safety net revenue comes in through there's a state component and there's a federal component. On this category on the right here, this special purpose funding, there, you'll notice at the top there is a cap at 16%. And what that means is the state's gonna go ahead and go through these calculations up to 16% of your population. So if your SPED population is 16.5%, you're going to get funded at, this calculation will hit 16% of your population. We happen to be at 15.29% right now. Excuse me. We're projecting to end the year at 15.29%, which is under that threshold, which through one lens is like, oh, then we're good, right? However, the 15.29% of the kids that we have isn't enough to cover the costs of the need. So if you have over 16%, you'll get nothing. But within the 16%, you'll get, a certain amount, but it's not enough in itself. Okay, questions on that slide? Because that's a little bit, okay? All right, then the last slide I've got here is just kind of here's the outcomes of the last few years for those revenue sources. And I've peeled out the federal piece here. We're not talking federal safety net nor federal grant. Yes?
You know what? After I said no, we're good.
Oh, we can go back.
After we said no, we're good, I did have a question.
Yeah.
Clarifying question on the ages 3 to 5.
Yep.
Is this for children who are ages 3 to 5 that are in our programs, like pre-K programs, or are these just any child in the district who's age 3 to 5 that's been diagnosed or
So it's
with
a student that has been identified as having a special education need that would usually have an individualized education plan that is 3 to 5 years old.
Okay. So if they're at home, or if they don't have to be in one of our school programs, is that correct? Or do they?
No, but we would have to serve them in some shape or form,
Okay.
right? So they could be in a program, but it's possible that a student may just have services only for an hour a day or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And so here's just the financial data. So you can just see this, I'll just go to the last year, for example, the 23-24 on the right-hand side. So when you cut it down and you say revenues versus expenditures, our expenditures exceeded revenues for special education by 3.4 million for state monies. And I think that's my last slide. Does anyone have any other questions?
Any other questions, Kristen? No, here none. Thank you.
Okay.
So
All right.
the ongoing context as we go through this is, we don't have, as you well know, the fund balance to continue to cover these. We have to make significant program changes. And not just in special ed, right? We will make, and you can see, like, in the last slide, if you have it up on your screen, we've made changes. We've continued to have to make changes. We were in 22-23, we were a delta of nearly 5 million, and this year, or last year, in 23-24, the delta was 3.5 million. We continue to try to make changes and adjust. We'll make adjustments again next year. We haven't determined what those adjustments, and it will not be just in special ed. We'll have to look at all programs, things like sports. We'll have to explore. Are we to a place where we have to move to pay to play or pay as you choose or sell the rights, naming rights to facilities? We have to do some things significantly different. We are not a district that has a large fund balance, and unfortunately the state is not coming through. So these informational things are not just a point of this is how it works, but also to build our background as a community to say things have to change. Things will have to change significantly for us.
I do have a more in-depth report about my trip to DC last week, but I will just say in regards to special education and IDEA, when we met with our congressional leaders from around the state, the majority of them who are those that we met with who are not in the majority any longer in Congress, their message to us was like, well, we can't really do anything. There's nothing we can do for IDEA. They're like, we'll have to wait. We are powerless, is the message that we got. So I think that it's important to take that into consideration in terms of where we are as a state for funding for special education, and that, you know, there are not going to be, at least no committed actions by our congressional leaders in the state in regards to protecting IDEA based on what we were told directly while we were there. So it was very disempowering and very frustrating, so I just wanted to add that context. Maybe it'll turn out differently, I don't know, but to have our leaders tell us, yeah, we care about this, but there's nothing we can do, is certainly not a message I wanted to bring back.
Thank you. Anything else for that last agenda item? Solid. We'll slide to 7.2. Student representatives report to the board. Who wants to go first? Rock, paper, scissors, just for the fun. Okay, no rock, paper, scissors again. How you good?
There we go. So I'm representing Lincoln, and 2 weeks ago, we had a regional instrumental solo and ensemble contest. I think it was at Peninsula High School, and 2 of our students who are in drumline won their categories, and they will be competing in state this spring, which is really exciting. And then our girls flag football team last Saturday, our varsity team won the South Sound Regional Championship, and they earned the #1 seed to the state tournament that will be happening this coming Saturday. And I will be out there if weather allows to take pictures of my team. I might not be out there because it is snowing outside, but if the snow does simmer down, I will be out there. And if you guys would like to support, it'll be at Mount Tahoma. And also, today we celebrated 215 students during 6th period who achieved perfect attendance the 2 weeks leading up to winter break. And it was a very sweet, very happy time to be together and celebrate our students.
Can I ask you to repeat, is the event you mentioned at Mount Tahoma, is that on Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Okay, and at what time again?
I think
It's at 9.
it's at 9?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
yeah.
so.
Awesome, thank you, thanks.
I'm representing Stadium, and so about a week ago, we hosted the choir solo and ensemble, and we had 2 large groups qualify for state, and then we had 3 soloists qualify, so they'll be going to state in the spring. That's really exciting for them. Our girls flag football team also qualified for state, so they'll be competing on Saturday at Mount T, and they had a really good season, winning the NPSL league, I believe. And then today was our Palentine's event right after school, and we were only expecting about 100 to 200 students, and we nearly tripled that amount of students coming out. So it was a really great event. We offered food, games, music, and it was $3 for admission. And all the money that we collected will be going to a local charity, and they all voted upon the Humane Society, so all the money that we collected will go there. And then we also this week had a rose sale, and students could buy a rose and give it out to someone that they appreciate in their lives. And it was great. I got to help hand them out today, and it was really nice seeing all the support for students and staff. And then our boys basketball is in the postseason right now, and they have a game tomorrow, and we'll see how they do.
Mr. President, I have a couple of other quick announcements. I had the luxury of watching the Lady Abes and the Lady Tigers last Saturday at Mount Tahoma. And Mount Tahoma last Saturday it was buzzing. So I want to give a couple of shout outs, both to the Lady Abes and Lady Tigers for their amazing sportsmanship. I want to thank Rhonda, the AD at Mount Tahoma. Mount Tahoma had flag football, unified basketball, Lunar New Year, and West Central District swim all at once.
Oh,
and
my
so I
goodness.
want to thank Kimber for all of her leadership at unified basketball. Mimi, who leads the Lincoln Abes basketball unified team. Micah, the Silas team, our father-son duo from Mount Tahoma, they're coaching. Great sportsmanship all around. Mylene from CAB here, who led the Vietnamese Lunar New Year celebration. Maintenance and operation, those guys are always buzzing around. Tony, I forget Tony's last name. He's a student from Mount Tahoma who was working the crowd and working the stage, helping out, and all the folks at West Central. It was a great day. I was exhausted. It was full of a lot of celebrations, and so it is playoff season. Please check your email, and a big special shout out to James Neal. James started flag football in Washington State. James doesn't get paid extra to do flag football. He doesn't get paid extra from the West Central District. He doesn't get paid by the WIA. He volunteers all of his time and his passion to do those. He shows up, he organizes it all because of he just wants to have the kids have a good time. So I just want to give a big special shout out to James Neal for all those efforts. So thank you.
For sure. All right, we'll be moving to agenda item number 8, which is staff report to the board. And I don't see anything. I do have the right agenda open today. So
Correct.
We'll move forward to agenda item number 9, which is members of the public wishing to address the board. We got any cards?
We don't have any written or oral public comment this evening.
Well, I'm going to take a point of privilege and not read everything that's underneath that. Moving forward to agenda item number 10, which is our consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions about it? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. It passes. Moving on to agenda item number 11, which is policy matters. We have none. Agenda item number 12 is our financial report. And it looks like the district's monthly financial report will be presented at the February 27th business meeting. Moving forward to agenda item number 13, curriculum and instruction. There is no report or presentation tonight, so we would jump right into the business matters, which is agenda item number 14. Number 14.1, approval of the contract number TSD-23-014, amendum number 1 between Parametrics, Inc. and Tacoma School District number 10 from January 25th, 2023 to December 31st, 2030.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD-23-014, addendum number 1 between Parametrics INC and Tacoma School District number 10 for the construction management services for various projects in the amount of $2 million for an estimated total of $7 million, excluding sales tax, from January 25th, 2023 to December 31st, 2030.
I move item 14.1.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? All those in favor? Oh, one question.
It mentions various projects. You just give us some examples of maybe a few of them, or is this all over the district? Are they in charge of certain
So
parameters?
we're currently utilizing 3 project management vendors. Parametrics is currently working on Maritime Skills Center, Lowell Elementary, which I believe is the next agenda item, and they finish up our athletic fields, most recently Peck and Hilltop.
Thank you.
Any additional? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Agenda item 14.2, approval of contract number TSD-24-022, amendment number 2, between Corsmo Construction and the Tacoma School District number 10 from February 7th, 2024 to December 31st, 2027.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD-24-022, Amendment Number 2, Guaranteed Maximum Price, GMP, between Corsmo Construction and Tacoma School District Number 10 for the Low Elementary School Replacement Project, an amount of $19,826,887 for an estimated contract total of $25,956,498, excluding sales tax, from February 7th, 2024 to December 31st, 2027.
I move item 14.2.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. 14.3, approval of contract number TSD-24-111, amendment number 3, between Ameresco, how you say that, Chris?
Amoresco.
Ameresco, Inc., and the Tacoma School District number 10 for the McKinley HVAC updates from July 9th, 2024 to December 31st, 2027.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD-24-111, Amendment Number 3, Guaranteed Maximum Price, GMP, between Amoresco, INC, and Tacoma School District Number 10 for the McKinley HVAC Upgrades Project, an amount of $6,218,914 for an estimated total of $7,888,841, excluding sales tax.
I move item 14.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. President, if you and other board members have not had a chance to get out to McKinley lately, I would really encourage you to. It's gone through a lot of major upgrades, new plumbing, HVAC, it's got a new vestibule, playground. It's really a very nice facility that kids get to use during their moves, it's swing sites. It's considered a swing site, right? We have 2 swing sites. And so I really want to thank Chris and Morris and the entire team to make sure that it's a safe, warm, welcome place, and not just a place where kids have to go for 2 years and, just an alternative. And so they've done an amazing job. So a big shout out to them. And so I really encourage you to get out there if you swing by. Say hi. Oakland's out there right now, but swing by anytime. It's really cool.
Should go check it out. All right, heard no questions or comments or concerns, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. 14.4, approval of bid acceptance between Madsen Roofing and Tacoma School District Number 10 for the Central Administration Building Tower re-roofing project.
Just wanted to mention, we allocated some funds in a 2024 bond to kind of address some of the needs at CAB. Obviously, our focus has been allocating funds to our schools to make sure we meet the needs of our students and staff there, but this building is in dire need. It's a historic building. We can't sell it or relocate, so we have to invest some dollars in there to keep it functional. The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors accept the bid between Madsen Roofing and Tacoma School District Number 10 for the Central Administration Building Tower re-roofing project in the amount of $533,229, excluding sales tax.
I move item 14.4.
Second.
Second and third, it's been moved second and third. Any questions, comments, concerns about it? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. We are on to 14.5, the approval to purchase furniture and equipment for Oakland High School from McDowell Craig for the Oakland Historic Modernization Project.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors approve the purchase of furniture and equipment from McDowell Craig for the Oakland Historic Modernization Project in the amount of $275,000 to $325,000, excluding sales tax.
You have the motion.
I move item 14.5.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. It passes. We are moving to item 14.6, approval of the award to Greater Seattle Floors through Sourcewell for the gym floor replacement for Baker Middle School.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors approve the award to Greater Seattle Floors through Sourcewell for the complete removal and placement of the damaged gym floor at Baker Middle School in the amount of $448,474, excluding applicable sales tax.
I move item 14.6.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions about this gym floor? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Appreciate it, Chris. You had a lot of reading to do this evening. Item number 15, other business. Item 15.1, first reading of the Budget Development Guiding Principles.
Good evening. It's that time again. We have begun the first year of our 2-year legislative cycle, our budget cycle, which is aligned with the state legislature. Getting a little ahead of myself. And with that, we are seeking information from you as to what your priorities are in the way that we identify what things we want to make sure we keep and what things we may be able to let go of as we work through our budgeting process. And so tonight is a first reading, no action required. Included in your packet is our budget development guiding principles and the criteria with which we make decisions as a cabinet team as to how to make modifications to our budget. And we are interested in any feedback that you have or changes you think may be necessary. We will be happy to accept that feedback. You can reach out to both Josh and myself with any feedback that you have, and we will bring all of those recommendations forward next meeting for an approval for that. And that will help inform the budgeting process as to how to make the best next steps.
So we, at all different levels, we use these, and we know these are difficult times. You know, last spring when we were making decisions, you know, we didn't have a reduction of force, but we had to move people around. We use these guiding principles to make sure that where we use the decisions. I anticipate this year will be another difficult year. You can read every headline, educational funding. And so these will be how we make recommendations to you. And so we ask that you help us get ahead of the game, if you will. We hope to adopt them on the 27th. We'll go to work, start to look at where we will make adjustments.
From the, it says that the last version was revised in 2023, correct?
Correct, yes. Last year, we try to adopt them for the 2-year cycle, and we brought them forward as informational to you with any kind of recommendations that you wanted to make modifications to them, but we didn't actually have any. So we didn't adopt it last year over again. We adopted it in 2023 and maintained those last year.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So for these first readings, we don't need to vote at all. We can just move on. All
Thank
right.
you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ross. Moving on to item number 16, board comments and reports. There's nobody to rock, paper, scissors with.
I'll go. I have a little bit of a lengthy one. So I was in DC February 1st through the 5th, leading the WASDA's Federal Relations Network Committee in conjunction with the National School Board Association's Advocacy Institute Conference. And I think there were 30 or 32 school board directors from around the state that I had the privilege of leading and facilitating in our Day on the Hill. And we did meet with multiple congressional leaders, and the way that the meetings work is because we have school directors from all over the state, we meet with all congressional, or we try to meet with all congressional leaders in groups on behalf of all students in Washington State, which are 1.2 million students in the state of Washington in public education. And so it's a really unique opportunity to advocate not just for Tacoma Public Schools, but in a really big picture sense. So I always really enjoy that. And then also learning from a lot of our colleagues in Denver and Michigan and Arizona and Georgia and from New Jersey, from all over the state, and just like learning from the work that happens by our counterparts in other parts of the country. The issues that our priority issues were IDEA, or special education, Title I, nutrition, food programs, and impact aid. And so we did meet. The agencies that we met with were the Department of Education, USDA for the nutrition programs, and then also the Federal Communications Commission. And I have a little meaty stuff about FCC in that. So we have, there is something called E-rate, which the FCC had ruled on allowing school districts a discounted rate on internet services and also technology. It provides funding in multiple ways, and I'm not going to say all the ways because I'll get it wrong. But the key piece of what we were raising is that there was a lawsuit that is now before SCOTUS, the U.S. Supreme Court, on E-rate and the challenging whether or not E-rate or FCC is allowed to make a rule to provide a discount that actually is passed on to taxpayers through their internet service. And so this is something that a case I think that has been making its way through the courts for some time and is now before SCOTUS and is anticipated to be heard, arguments to be heard, I think, mid-March. And if the Supreme Court rules that E-rate is unconstitutional, that it's only an act of Congress, not something that the Federal Communications Commission is allowed to set a rule on, that will have a really drastic impact on public education. So it is something we wanted to raise awareness to with our congressional leaders, which we did spend about 45 minutes with Senator Cantwell, who she is very aware of this situation just because of her committee assignments. And so, but it was something that there are several other congressional leaders that weren't aware of it, weren't following it. And so they were really grateful to have the information. And then we also, in our meeting with FCC, we're just trying to determine like what other mechanisms and what other safety nets or things that could happen, and it would, to the best of my understanding, take an act of Congress to actually either reinstate it or have something equivalent to what we have in the current rules. So it is a really substantial case that will impact public education nationwide. So I'm sure I'll have more to report about that once the ruling is out, but it's likely the arguments will be heard in March, but the ruling likely won't come until June. It usually takes a few months before they release their decisions. And then I think I just want to say that because we have a new Congresswoman for our district, Congresswoman Emily Randall, and it was really was a former state senator, but it was really wonderful to be in her office and get to meet with her in her new capacity as our as our congressperson for our we're in the 6th district. I had to think about that really hard. Anyways, there's a lot of things happening federally that are being monitored really closely. I've lost count of how many meetings there have been with our federal relations team, just to continue to monitor the impacts on federal funding and also education. And then I did get to actually join the Traffic and Safety Committee meeting while I was still in DC. And so I always appreciate all the work that goes into that committee and the folks that contribute there. And then yesterday I did end up meeting with Charlie Brown for our legislative update on the state legislation or leg session, and an important date that's coming up on February 21st is that it's the cutoff, and so no new bills can be heard, and so things are moving as always at a chaotic and rapid pace through the legislative session, and I think that's it.
Director Leon, you want to go next, or do you want?
Sure. I think a lot of us have heard from a lot of folks in our community that are worried, concerned about student learning and safety regarding immigration law that may be changing or trying to change. So there's some families that are potentially and are either not sending their kids to school consistently or not at all. So there's some real worries out there in the community. I think that there's lots of things we don't know about where this will finish, but I think that they're making an emergency plan and making sure that your emergency contacts are up to date with the school district are important for lots of reasons, especially now. So essentially if the main guardians are not available, who else is available to care for children? We don't keep, no school district in this state, I believe, keeps any immigration or citizenship data on any student. That is not something that is necessary or important, so that is not something that is kept for anyone to try to ask us to give. This is for the community to hear. I think a lot of community members probably know this, but not everyone. Other ways to learn, if you're not in school, Tacoma Online is available, so the online learning platform. We don't want kids to suffer not learning in their in-person schools, so Tacoma Online is a great resource, a great way to learn. I did meet with the Safe Streets School on the board, and I met with the deputy chief today of Tacoma Police Department, who also assured me that it's illegal for any of his officers to do anything around immigration at any schools. So he wanted me to mention that to everyone to reassure them. That's it.
Okay. All right, well, I have a couple of general items and then some specific really fun things that I've been doing at schools. So I'll start with last month's JMAC meeting. We were setting priorities for the year, and tomorrow is February's meeting, and we're meeting with our CEOs. So Superintendent Garcia will be there to talk with his colleagues, his peers, about potential impacts from the rumored impacts that might come down at from the federal level on our funding and on other funding of our colleagues here in the city, and how that might impact programs, because one of the treasures about Tacoma is that we partner so incredibly seamlessly with our partners, and so it's when there's cuts in state in education funding, that impacts our kids pretty dramatically. But if it's also coming cuts to the parks or cuts to the city or cuts to the county, it's like a triple, quadruple whammy. So just really want to make sure we're all clear about what is the plan of action to keep our resources flowing to support our families and our kids. So that's tomorrow's meeting. The other thing is Director Keating and I serve at the behest of this board on the Tacoma Education Dream Fund, which is a newly created fund that is collecting for resources for supporting our Tacoma public school students. And so that's really getting going now. And so we had a meeting this month and really talked about the ways forward. We've got all of our 501c3s filed and all the other parts of building an organization, but now we're starting to look at programming. So that's been going underway. So that we had a board meeting, and then I also participated and chaired the governance committee meeting, and this month for the Tacoma Education Dream Fund board. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it as we get past the organizational stage and into the implementation part. And so listen up for news about how you can contribute to or be part of the work of the Tacoma Education Dream Fund. One of the things I did last month, which I really enjoyed, was participating in the Silas High School accreditation process. So every 6 years, if I'm understanding this correctly, Superintendent, every 6 years, the comprehensive high schools have to be reaccredited. And so I participated on the Silas one to sort of, and which is a fascinating process, really enjoyed it, met with the accreditor, he asked a bunch of questions of community members, board members, staff, students, families. It was very comprehensive. And then I got to participate in a second meeting, which was kind of looking at the findings. And of course, don't have anything official yet, but he seemed quite impressed and very supportive of the work that's happening at Silas. And seemed to me that the room for improvement were items that were minimal compared to what he says he sees in other high schools. So congratulations and cheers for the team at Silas and the families and students who make that school so strong. And I'm sure other schools are going through accreditations as well. Then in terms of participating with students, I have to say, really enjoyed Foss High School had a biology presentation, which I actually was invited to by a student. So Rhiannon called me and invited me to come and hear her presentation. They were doing presentations on Henrietta Lacks in biology and thinking about how the impact of Henrietta Lacks's cells, which were taken without her permission, have moved forward in so many findings, her cancer cells and also her healthy cells. And her cells in particular have been the foundation for a lot of scientific discoveries, which have made a huge difference in all of our lives. And so it was fascinating to see these kids. They did an absolutely amazing job. Every one of them did. And they knew the topic. They'd all sort of came at it from a different perspective. But I loved seeing, going from table to table and seeing how they all incorporated what was special to them or what they learned that was impactful for them into their real life. So it was biology, but again, applied into the ethics of that process of taking without permission and the impact, the social impact and the economic impact. And it was just fabulous. So it was applied biology, which was really wonderful to hear. So thank you to teacher Tashi Langton, who really ran that and did a great job with that, and his students were just engaged. So I want to say thank you to Rhiannon and Annabelle and all those who encouraged me to come, and I had a great time at Foss. Oh, and by the way, they were all ninth graders, and they were articulate, and I just sort of feel hopeful about where these kids, they've got great opinions, and they're not afraid to share them, so keep it up. The other piece, connections with students I had was this week I participated in the 8th grade IB community presentation at Hunt Middle School, which, and was on a scoring panel. And in this case, each student, we were in Miss Press's room, and all of the students that were in that room had been working together either solo or with one or two other people to come up with a community project that they wanted they created from beginning to end into implementation. So they take it through the 6 IB stages. And really, again, very impressive. These 8th graders really understand now how to have an idea about how to make a difference in their community and then what it takes to go about actualizing that vision. And so really enjoyed that. They obviously, some of them were more nervous about making a presentation in front of people that they didn't know, but they all did a great job. They stepped up. They had, PowerPoint presentations that we shared, and it just keeps giving me hope and confidence that this generation is going to change the world for the better. So thanks for all of you that keep giving me the opportunity to remember that. And also I want to thank the Rotary community members who came in full force to also come and be part of those judging panels. And for the other thing I love about Tacoma Public Schools is, as you know, Foss is an IB high school, and we have feeder programs going up to it from middle school and some elementary that are also following the IB rubrics and trainings. And so we had, as part of the panels, we had like 4 people on our panel, 2 of whom were Foss students who came over to hear the 8th graders do their presentation, and we all offered comments, questions, asked questions and engaged these kids. And I thought that having the high schoolers there to sort of show the way for these 8th grader, it was really a magical piece. So thanks to all the folks at Hunt that made that day possible, and for the community members and Foss students who joined us. So that's it for me.
Thank you. So our student reps, thank you guys for your reports earlier today, keeping us informed on things happening in your respective buildings, and you do so eloquently. And even though you guys were both on opposing sides of the girls' flag football, you guys held yourselves together up here. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. To my fellow board members, thank y'all for all the work that you do. You know, I don't think we say thank you to you all enough. So just without a bunch of words, appreciate y'all and all of your efforts. And I'll just let you know that I don't have a board report tonight, so we'll move on to agenda item number 17, which is the announcement of next regular board meetings. February 20th, we'll be in here for a study session at 6 p.m. February 27th, we'll be here for a business meeting at 6 p.m. And March 13th, we will also have a business meeting here in this very room. And with that, agenda item number 18 is adjournment. We're out of here. If I can find the gavel. We're out of here. Yeah, I could only.